Right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're taking a really hard objective look at White Cliff Minerals' Rae Copper Project. If you've been tracking the absolute explosion in critical metals demand lately, you already know copper is sitting right at the top of that list. But, not all projects are created equal. So in this explainer, we're going to evaluate the raw data, the geological scale, and the actual logistical realities of the Rae Copper Project. We want to understand exactly what's sitting up there in the Canadian North, and more importantly, what it actually means for potential investors. Okay, let's dive in.
Okay, quick look at the agenda. We'll start with the macro Rae opportunity, dig into the high-grade drilling results, map out the mineral footprint, discuss the regional mining infrastructure, and finally wrap up with a corporate snapshot. Starting off with Section 1, the Rae opportunity, because, well, location really does matter. We're talking about roughly 2,000 square kilometers up in Nunavut, Canada. Now, if you're evaluating a mining play, the jurisdiction is honestly just as critical as the rock itself. And Canada? It's universally recognized as a highly supportive, Tier 1 jurisdiction for critical minerals exploration. They've got the enabling regulatory frameworks in place, plus multiple initiatives specifically designed to back exploration and infrastructure. And just the sheer size of this claim, 2,000 square kilometers, it gives White Cliff a massive first-mover advantage across what is a highly prospective district. What's really fascinating is that this isn't exactly a brand new discovery out of nowhere. It's almost like a giant puzzle that's been waiting decades to be solved. People have actually known this area was a historic copper hotspot all the way back in the 18th century. Fast forward a bit to 1968, and a historic, albeit non-compliant, resource estimate put the Danvers target at 4.16 million tons, grading a very healthy 2.96% copper. But then it just kind of sat there, largely dormant. It wasn't until the current 2024 to 2026 window that modern exploration, driven by White Cliff Minerals, finally returned to apply contemporary drilling and mapping techniques to this long-known district. All right, moving right along to Section 2, the drilling results and those high-grade assays. 21.1%. Just let that sink in for a second. That is a staggering 1.52-meter intercept where literally 1/5 of the rock pulled out of the ground was pure copper. I mean, wow. This ultra-high-grade intercept ranks among the strongest shallow intersections reported anywhere in the world over the past decade. It's the absolute highest grade interval on record for this project, and it pretty much proves that the ceiling for this system is exceptionally high. And, this isn't just some freak intercept or a one-hit wonder. When we look across the highlight holes, we're seeing Dan 26009 hitting 1.08%, Dan 26011 returning 1.92%, and the absolute standout, Dan 26012, averaging a massive 6.64% copper over its highlighted run. So the system isn't just generating little traces of copper here and there, it's consistently producing grades that would make absolutely any geologist sit up and pay very, very close attention. Let's actually zero in on that standout hole for a minute. The crucial point here is the density of the mineralization. Hole DAN 26012 delivered 19.81 meters, so practically 20 meters of rock, grading at a remarkable 6.64% copper, starting from a relatively shallow depth of just 152.4 meters. And within that run, there was an even richer core of 7.62 meters, grading 11.38% copper. When you're evaluating a project, you're desperately looking for thick, continuous, high-grade mineralization, and these specific assay numbers, they deliver exactly that. Which brings us to Section 3. Mapping out that district-scale mineral footprint. I absolutely love this quote from Managing Director Troy Whitaker because it just perfectly frames the company's perspective on the situation. He points out that these intercepts highlight the extraordinary potential of a, quote, rapidly growing system. That phrasing right there, rapidly growing, is the key takeaway. They aren't just retreading old ground and confirming what was found back in the 60s. They're actively pushing the known boundaries of this copper outward with every single drill hole. We are genuinely seeing a dramatic expansion here. Think about the historic zone, that 1968 estimate of 4.16 million tons. That was the old baseline. But today, modern exploration has confirmed a 5.4-kilometer total copper footprint, featuring a 3.1-kilometer confirmed strike length right along the Teshire Fault Zone. They have effectively taken a historically localized resource and just blown the doors off it, revealing what is clearly a major district-scale structure. Furthermore, it doesn't even stop there. Visual drill logs suggest the system extends even further out. Geologists are literally seeing visual copper sulfides stretching beyond 6 kilometers between holes Dan 26001 and Dan 26024. And perhaps the most important detail for anyone evaluating the future upside, the mineralization remains completely open. This means they haven't found the edges yet, not towards the surface, not at depth, and not along the strike. The absolute limits of this massive mineralization just haven't been found. Okay, Section 4, regional mining and the infrastructure focus. Because frankly, Great Rock is useless if you can't move it to market.
Now, the infrastructure question. That's always the elephant in the room for northern projects, right? The Rae Project sits about 75 kilometers west of the coastal town of Kugluktuk, and it's just a short flight from the established mining hub of Yellowknife. But the real game changer here? That would be the proposed federally backed Grays Bay Road and Port Project. This initiative aims to connect the Arctic Ocean with an all-season road stretching down into the Northwest Territories. If that gets realized, this proposed infrastructure would provide a crucial all-season logistical lifeline. It would completely alter the economic feasibility of getting Rae's copper out to the global market.
Finally, Section 5. Let's take a quick look at the corporate snapshot for White Cliff Minerals. So, running through their essential metrics, they trade over on the ASX under the ticker WCN, carrying a market capitalization of roughly 34 million Australian dollars. Over the last 12 months, the share price has ranged from 1 cent to 3 cents, and it actually saw a recent jump back up to that 1 cent mark right on the heels of these high-grade assay results. Basically, it's a snapshot of a microcap explorer sitting on top of a potentially macro-sized resource. But as an evaluator, here is the part that usually makes investors lean in. You want to see management with actual financial skin in the game, right? Well, over the previous 18 months, management has demonstrated intense internal confidence by purchasing over 4 million Australian dollars in shares and options. We're talking both on-market buys and through placements. They are putting their own capital directly behind the drill results we just walked through, which is a massive signal of their belief in the project's long-term trajectory. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one big thought to chew on. We know the copper's there. The historical data hinted at it, and the recent 21% intercepts absolutely scream it. We know the footprint is massive, and it's still growing. But as critical metal demand continues its global surge, will these proposed northern infrastructure solutions, like the Grays Bay Road, be the ultimate key to unlocking this massive copper system? It is literally the multi-million-dollar question for White Cliff Minerals, and for sure, one worth watching. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the data.